So, yes, it is really an honor, Timmy, to have you here with us. Other than a thought leader in the sphere of financial coaching, also a alumni of UFS in more than one way. So that makes it just so much more uh, for us to have you as part of the session, and also then welcome for everybody that joined us this afternoon for our first session this year. Yeah, we're looking forward for the other sessions also later in the year. You would have seen that I actually made the session a little bit longer, hour and a half, and the reason for that is to have a little bit of a integration, that we've got an hour, say, to have a conversation with whoever joined us in terms of sharing thought leadership content, but that we can then take that back and say, in terms of the ontological coaching model and the purpose-driven financial planning model, how do we integrate it? How do we have coaching conversations in terms of the content for, say, a half an hour? Because I again had two conversations today where I could clearly from the conversation see there's opportunities for coaching in terms of what is our conversation is, but either the coach or the financial planner is, do I have the skill and the ability to engage with a client on the topic, or not seeing the opportunity? So uh, that we've done a lot. Most of you on the call have done the course, and the other of you have been part of this conversation for many a moon. So you've got a very good understanding of our coaching model. So you know that we help each other to make it practical and apply it within context. And yeah, Dennis, also welcome. I think we've got Tracy, Dennis, and Bianca from the UK today on this call. So fantastic. So yeah, and I must say a special welcome to my boss, Liesel, also just joined us. So thanks for joining, Liesel. So yeah. So Timmy, over to you, which is firstly, congratulations in writing a book. I've also went through that uh, process, and that in itself is a challenge, putting your thoughts within a book. So the first thought was, you know, when you started off writing the book, what was your motivation for writing the book?
Thank you so much, Hendrik. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor. As Hendrik has alluded, I'm Tembisa. Just the background so that I can answer your question correctly, Hendrik, and for the benefits of other colleagues. I've been a financial planner since I was 23. So that was my first job, basically just after a 6 months internship in government. So I was a financial planner for the last 10 years. And I think at the beginning of just being a financial planner, I've always fell on the side of educate. I liked educating people and wanted more out of financial planning. So I was always interested and intrigued in understanding how people interact with money, not just the numbers alone. So after, I think I started writing more of as a journal for myself and observations that I was getting from interacting with clients. I think just in the beginning of 2020, generally just the observation of why clients are behaving a certain way when I interact with them in the financial planning process as a certified financial planner with all the good strategies. But I find that no matter how good the strategies would be, how beautiful a financial planner would be, a financial planning process or a financial plan would be, you find that clients still didn't, fall into the line of following the plan correctly. They'll still make excuses of not following the plan. They would want to follow the plan, but somehow, somewhere there was a disconnect, you know. So I started researching. As Hendrik, you know, I wrote my thesis on that between 2019 and 2020 on researching why people are not financially capable. And with the definition of being financially capable was that you needed to have the knowledge, the attitude, as well as the confidence to be able to take financial decisions. And that this was based on professionals, young professionals that you would assume that they do have access to knowledge. They have the ability to make the right decision, but seemingly they were not. Then out of that, I realized that there was a huge side of the mindset, the emotional side of people that drive them to make certain financial decisions. Hence, after writing and journaling my own experience, as well as experiences of my clients, when I talk to them, I also research and find out, can there ever be something like financial trauma, you know? Because to me, it looked like we are at the point where we recognize that there are mental traumas, you know, and how that can affect our life. Can there be something called financial trauma, and that's possibly something that make people not being able to follow their financial plans, to follow the financial strategies that are there, to use the knowledge that they are given? Can there be something like that? And there is on my research there was that, but there's still a young topic. So I continued to observe, research, and journal as well, until I came to my point where I said, okay, I think if we can have something called financial trauma, maybe if we heal that, then we can access our wealth. Hence the birth of this baby, which is called Healing Financial Trauma as our gateway to wealth. So that's the background and the motivation.
Fantastic. And I think just to add to what you were saying, I was listening to Rick Kaler, which was, you know, one of the pioneers of financial therapy. And he was saying that, you know, we think financial trauma is the big things, you know, you go through a divorce, you lose your job, those stuff. But also, what about the trauma, that the small traumas, you know, each month I haven't got enough money, and how that builds up. So I can 100% relate to what you say. In terms of the book, for who did you write the book? Especially for those that perhaps didn't read the book yet, Tembisa.
I did not have a specific group or race, but it was just for everyone, because on my research and observations, again, it was just for everyone. In one way or another, or in one time in our lifetime, we have experienced financial trauma. Either you're black or white, or you're green or you're blue. Everyone in their lifetime, some way, somehow, they experience financial trauma. So it's the book is intended for everyone. And the fact that we all have interaction with money at a certain point in our life, it means it cannot then be specific to a certain group of people. My book was just for everyone. If you have an opportunity to interact with money, which we all have, at one point in our life, we'll experience some sort of financial trauma. So the book is intended for everyone.
Yeah, and that is what I enjoyed about the book and reading the book. As you know, as a practitioner, I can read it, but it's also very accessible for anybody in the street, you know, even the 2 chapters around how do you seek a good advisor, you know, the basics around financial planning, which you also cover. So I think well done, Tembisa, on that. And then I think the other one that I want to add is for an academic, not having one reference in the book is brilliant.
Again, as I said, it was more of a journal that I tried to transport then to, it was more of an personal experience. Then I had to try and put it in a more formal way. So it's more of my experience and what I've been observing, yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So that could most probably give you for the next 20 years you can do research to put to prove and put solutions in place for everything that you wrote in the book. But what learnings did you have through this whole process? If you need to take out one or two big learnings, because there's always, for me personally, writing a book, there was a huge learning for myself, putting one's thoughts and clarifying that in one's mind, so yeah.
One big thing was that things are not always as good or as bad as they seem. Sometimes we focus on the bad thing and we only put our focus on that, and sometimes then it brings out fear to not doing anything, because for the longest time I didn't think that it was worthy to be read by people out there. And again, at the point where I thought it was really good, again, what is it called? Imposter syndrome came and say, but so things are not always bad or good as they seem. You just have to do your truth at that time. There's also learning doesn't stop. Life is all about ongoing learning. As much as I have learned so much, I figured that I've got so much more to learn even. The more I research, the more I talk to people, the more I realize that there's so much I could still learn, and I could still probably then learn to impact other people in the future. So that was the biggest lesson for me.
Thanks for sharing that, Tembisa. Your first chapter is, why do we as people suffer? And, it also beautifully links to the ontological coaching model that says all people actually want a better life. So I could resonate with that. Is in your practice and in your journaling, what do you see as the things that causes people to suffer around finances and causes them financial anxiety, Tembisa?
I'll just mention four. And one is expectations. We've got a lot of expectations, either for ourselves, for other people, for the world at large. So when those expectations are not met, somehow it then triggers certain things in our emotions, in our minds. Then we get financial anxiety. We expect to be paid so much at our work, and if it doesn't happen, it hits us. We expect to reach certain things at certain age, and if it doesn't happen, it hits us, and we experience financial anxiety. We expect other people to do so much for us. If they don't, we then experience a certain financial anxiety. You expect your husband to support you in a certain way. If it doesn't happen, you start experiencing some sort of financial anxiety. The other second one is comparison, or comparing ourselves to other people. I don't know if it's human nature that we always want to rank ourselves. So if I am comparing myself to another peer of mine we've been in varsity together, but they now have a 2 million rand house living in a certain estate, and I haven't reached that stage, I start having financial anxiety. Am I doing something correct? I start making bad financial decisions because I'm trying to be on the same level. So comparison is such a big factor as well. The third one is not knowing, not knowing in terms of some people do not have the right financial knowledge, so they do not have the right financial navigation, so they're just shooting blanks, and that creates some sort of financial anxiety. they're shooting blanks because it's either they don't have a professional next to them who will assist them, they do not have the knowledge of what to do, when to do, and how to do it. So the lack of knowledge out there also creates some sort of financial anxiety for a lot of people. The last one is not planning. So we might have the knowledge, but as human beings, sometimes we like to procrastinate. We like to let things be or let things until too late. So not planning, and when the risk of the world attacks us, the emergencies of the world attacks us, we find ourselves in a financially bad state. We then have financial anxiety. So there's quite a lot of things that make us suffer as financially and create that financial anxiety.
Thanks for sharing that, Tembisa. And I was thinking while you're talking, it's interesting, especially if we think of, from a neuroscience viewpoint, is they say all conversations below the line is where we tell ourselves, where we go into the detail, where we tell ourselves those drama stories and things that's going on that's bad, wherever, if we can move above the line where you say, not planning, it's, if you start planning immediately, you start creating for you an environment where you can work towards, as well as a vision where you want to go. So those are the above the line stuff. Your second chapter, you jump into money wounds, how to know if you are hurt. And you list 3 types of money wounds: post-trauma related to money, perceived barriers to financial success, and lack of confidence in your ability to seek. That you just touched on in terms also of, what causes suffering for people. What do you see? What is some of the, especially for the financial coaches on the call, what is the narrative that people will tell themselves that you see when you start talking to clients in your office?
So again, it comes from beliefs and from the background that we have. For example, for somebody who grew up in so much poverty, the only thing that they know probably about money is that money is to be spent, and they probably have the belief that money is some sort of evilness, so I do not have to have so much of it. They also have some belief not everyone is good with money, so they've already instilled that in them, that I will never be good with money. So whatever you tell me, I was not meant for that. So those are the narratives that people come with as barriers already. So no matter what you say to them, or no matter what plan you have, there's already a block because of the belief. That belief has driven a certain attitude towards money, and that attitude drives their financial behavior. So if they believe that money is to spend, whatever saving plan or how beautiful it is that you might come up with, their subconscious mind is already instilled with the belief that whatever money that comes in, it always needs to go out, and I always need to work hard again for the next salary, So those are some of the hard narrative that we need to work on. But as financial planners, I do not think we are aware that if you can go deeper to the client and understand where they come from, how did they get where they are, what are their beliefs about money, how far do they know, or how much do they know about finances, it could make such a big difference before you can introduce any solution to that person.
I think that's so true. And that leads us into chapter 3, that is the healing journey. And you asked 2 interesting critical questions, according to me, in this chapter. What does financial independence mean to you, and how would you define it? And then the other one is, what is freedom? What are some of the common responses you get from clients when you ask them this question, and how do you deal with that? Because there's most probably interesting stories that comes up if you ask those 2 questions, Tembisa.
Definitely, and some are just hilarious, if I may put it that way. You find that because again, we do not know the value of money. We also have not clarified our objectives and goals for the money. People would say things extreme like, freedom for me means waking up every day and do what I like with whoever I like without worrying about money. There is no accountability of where would their money would have come from. What is your plan for you to achieve that freedom? Some will say freedom for me is about ensuring that I can choose anything, either for my family, for myself, having a lifestyle that I can fully maintain without having to worry about how much do I have in the bank account. You know, people have different sort of freedom, but it's always attached to having a lot of money, you know? And that for me opened my eyes in such a way that maybe maybe people just think having millions is what freedom means. And then there's a flip side where you get people who get lottery money or got billions, but they still do not have freedom. Hence the question, do you know what freedom means? And do you know what your financial independence means? Can you really clarify that?
Thank you very much. And I think that's so important to know that, again, that vision and what is important for you, but also to take action, because I think also an action and success there lies. Soon as you start doing stuff, some of the anxiety goes away. You touch on chapter 4, important part, and that, you know, in terms of the ontological model, I could also resonate with that, is the whole thing about emotions and moods. And you list 4 main ones: fear, guilt, shame, and envy. How do you see that playing out also in the conversations and engagements that you've got with clients, Tembisa?
Okay. With the first emotion, fear comes from the fact that most people do not trust themselves about money. So it's either they fear disclosing where they really stand in terms of their finances because they fear of being judged, they fear of being assessed wrongly or being painted with a certain brush. The fear comes from the fact that they fear just taking financial decision because they do not know what the outcome will be. So it's fear of the unknown. So if I take this financial decision, what if it goes south and it's not what I've expected? So I'd rather not take it at all. What if I start saving and never reach the financial goal that I want to? What if I take insurance and I don't die, and I end up paying for premiums that I will never use? You know, there's so much fear around money, depending where somebody stands. And then the guilty part, or the guilty emotion that usually comes again from different sides. Guilt may come from the fact that someone would want to take financial decisions that are good for them, but they will feel guilty if those financial decisions will impact the loved one in a way that they do not think it will be good for the loved one. So they rather compromise themselves. We find this a lot in our Black community, where what the word black tax has come from is that when I start working, I feel guilty for the fact that my family has raised me, has compromised so many things. So it will look selfish if I start buying my own house and my own car before I go back home and build a house. So there's a guilty part, which then pushes me to take a lot of loans. You know, there's so much guilt that also come from that type. But also guilt may come from taking a certain financial decision, and when it comes, the outcome then become not what you had expected or what you would want. You start feeling that guilt. Had I not taken the financial decision, people struggle to move forward, you know, with that. And then the fourth one is shame. Again, shame with fear sort of goes together, because after I have taken that financial decision, I struggle with even communicating about the bad financial decision that I had made. I struggle with even finding help because I am so shameful that I engaged in a Ponzi scheme and I lost all my pension. So now I'm very shameful that I was not responsible. I cannot go see a financial planner because they will judge me. I'm shameful that I spend my money in something that seems so stupid. So it comes from that part. The angry part is the emotion that come from why do we suffer comparing ourselves. We see other people succeeding, we get envy of how they're doing. We start making financial decisions, trying to make up for the gap because of that little jealous that comes in. We want to be in that level because of that feeling that we have. I envy Crawford for living in that estate. I envy Crawford for going on holidays. Why not use my credit card to also go on the same one? So money comes with so many different emotions, but those are the 4 that I wanted to highlight based on the experience as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Tembisa. In the chapter, and that's chapter 5 and 6 is very much practical for users. How do I pick a financial advisor? What is the basics of drafting a financial plan? And then in chapter 7, you sort of bring it together in terms of a chapter which you call Achieving Financial Mastery. And you list 12 steps that a user can go through. What was interesting reading it, and also you referred to your introduction, is where you did research in terms of financial capability, as well as you did hundreds of financial literacy workshops in your career. Is what is of those 12 building blocks, which are the ones that you think is key for clients, which could derail, which they need to have in place? Where do they start? And what do you see? Do they battle most with in terms of when engaging with clients, Tembisa?
Hendrik, out of the 12, I love the 4, and I love the 4 because it's what I've noticed with many of the people or the interaction that I've heard. The first one is actually number 1 on the book as well. People don't recognize the quality of money. They still don't understand the real value of money. People still think money is only about the numbers in the accounts, the coins in our wallets. The real value, it's either they underestimate the value of money or they overestimate the value of money. But I don't think most people have the good understanding of what money is and the value of it in reality. So I think people still need to learn more about the value of money, because that's the very beginning or the foundation of everything, understanding the real value of money, the cost of making money, the benefits of making money, and all those things, because it's not only about the coins and the papers that we see in the account and in our wallet. The second one that I love is the sixth one that I mentioned in the book, but I love it. The second one is the keeping track of your daily expenditures or your daily interaction with your money. People undermine that a lot. They also think they can just calculate in their head. I've spent 100 rand, so I'm left with 60 rand, and it's all that. But if you really look at people's bank account, when you start analyzing, people do not know their money because they don't track that. They do not know what I spend my money on and how much am I spending. They can't even then recognize if they want to spend so much in whatever they're spending on. With technology and mobile money and money that we have, that and plastic money that we currently have, it's easier just to swipe coffee here and there, buy airtime in your account here and there. and then you lose the tracking. And that's the building blocks of achieving your financial freedom, knowing where you're spending your money, how you're spending your money, and how much are you spending in a certain item. So that's number 2 for me. Number 3 and 4 is actually 7 and 8, the goals and objectives, having goals and objectives for your money, and also putting your money into work. It's number 7 that says have objectives and goals. I find that again, going back, people just shoot in the blank. I earn my salary, I will do whatever it comes. I don't have any goal, I don't have any objectives, I don't know what I want to achieve in a year's time, in 3 years, in 5 years, and why do I want to achieve that? What value will that add into my life? We're just going, we're cruising, we're on airplane mode. I'll get paid next month, it's the same cycle. Next month, it's the same cycle. But what are really my objectives? What drives me? What drives me to make more money? What drives me to save? What drives me to invest? So that's the big one. But the number 8 in the book and the 4th right now is putting your money into work. We obviously still see a lot of people not investing. They just spend. There's still a very low rate of investing, either for retirement, either for college, either for anything. People are still not able to put their money into work and seeing their money working for them so that it can help them achieve whatever financial goals that they have. They still haven't learned that and having to understand how to do that. So those were my main 4 out of the 12.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And I think the number 4 one, what makes it so difficult is the whole research around, seeing your future self. And actually, like you say, number 3, having the goals help us to create and see and vividly see where we want to go, because the research shows us around understanding our future self is, it's if I think about retirement and I think I want to have enough money, it's most probably as good as I think my neighbor must have enough money when they retire, because we can't see ourselves there. There's so much going on in our lives now that it's so difficult that that's something that we must have a clear, vivid picture of those things. And like you say, then the budgeting also comes much easier, because then I know what is the things that's really important for me that I need to spend money on. So yeah, I love those 4 that you took out. Chapter 8 talks about investing, where you put it in layman's language for somebody reading the book, understanding money working for you. And I think for me, that chapter to a large extent also links back to the first point you made around the building blocks, is the value, because we are most probably our biggest assets. And if I can see that I'm not just earning ching, it is the value that I'm creating in the world that's coming back to me, that flows through me. And how do I utilize that money so that I can start creating investments that work at night for me? So it's that whole interaction that people need to start understanding, which is not that easy, but so I love that. Chapter 9 speaks to money, relationships, and conversations. And a personal question for you, working with this stuff: why is money such an awkward thing to talk about?
I'll talk from my personal experience. Yeah. So when I grew up, obviously it was a single-handled household. It was only my mother, and there was 3 of us girls. I've never in my lifetime, until today, I'm 33, hear my mother admitting that, you know what, I'm feeling very financially stable in this month. It was always an issue. I don't have money. Even if you ask for something, I don't have money. So there was never a conversation about money, because we grew up knowing that money is a secret, not even confidential. Money is somebody's secret. It should be your diehard secret, and nobody should know anything about your finances, and that's the mindset you sort of grow up with. Then when I started to interact, get into the profession, I realized that actually money shouldn't be a secret, but it can be some part of it should be confidential. But money is something we should actually talk about it, just like how sex is so openly a topic now. Why you shouldn't do 1, 2, and 3 to make sure that the next person doesn't do. It's how we should actually be talking about money. But because there has been this thing around the world that say money is a secret, money is something that should be private, but also it comes from the emotions that we get when we talk about money and people start judging us. We what is the correct word? We assess each other based on the financial things that somebody has. If you have so much money, then I will weigh you the level of respect I should give you. That's how the world has sort of put the money conversation to be so awkward, because there are so many things that are attached to financial status that then make other people feel either ashamed to talk about money, and it makes it such an awkward thing, because in the group of friends, if I can just talk about how much I earn, there is a level of respect either I will get, and I will start being ashamed if my other friend actually say they earn more than me. I start feeling a little bit under them. I'll start assessing myself as not good enough to being among the group. So it makes those conversations a bit awkward. So because of the judgments that comes out, the emotions that we get around money, what makes this conversation a bit hard.
Yeah, and one would say, there's most probably a part of me that I can say, keep it superficial when you're engaging with friends and share knowledge, etc., with each other. But the danger is also that we do not have these conversations within the relationships. Furthermore, I had a conversation with a financial advisor this morning again that said, so many of the clients that she sees in her practice is the sandwich generation clients. There's the middle-aged parents is looking after the parents in the old age home, as well as the kids that's still battling to get a job, and it's each of those generations is bringing in hopefully a certain portion of income. But even in this situation, in those situations, I find people do not have the courage to talk to each other and say, this is the means I've got that I can put in here to support. And and for us as financial advisors, we also feel that's, dangerous territory, because, how am I going to handle these conversations if I need to get into this conversations, if the conversations gets emotional, so perhaps a thought on that, that you find in practice, Tembisa.
It's also a sensitive thing, Hendrik. It become a sensitive issue even on married couple, because now if we talk about money, we start looking at each other like, oh, you can afford so much, so then why are you not doing so much? So it's more of a sensitive issue. Even if when I talk to my parents and say, you know what, I can only afford to do so, then they start to be judgment. Okay, you think you are better, you now can't afford to, you say you can't afford to take care of us, then they pass judgment. Now I feel guilty, so then the cycle start. So it become a sensitive issue. I'd rather not talk about my finances with them. I'll do what I can. They do not know where is this coming from, so I do not know. We are trying, but I think we still need to find a way to make easy environments and calm environments where we can talk about money freely without judgment, without a lot of expectations, just an understanding, which we find a common ground.
Yeah. On that one of talking around money, you also in the last chapter linked to money personalities, Tembisa, that you summarize some, your observations in terms of money personalities. Do you find that some of these personalities is more comfortable to talk about money, and what do you see in practice if you now think about you observing the different personalities?
Definitely. With money personalities, remember our money personalities also takes from our general personalities, you know, who you are, your personality in general. So it draws, our money personalities also draws from that. And you find that the people who are either overspenders, who like to show their colors, when it comes to spending, people who want to be seen, who've got those personalities of pleasing anyone when it comes to money, they might be more open to talk about money, but also that is because it's of their benefits. They will get what they yearn for, to be seen, to be acknowledged. So that you find that those people might be more open to talk about money. You find people who do not like to spend, who are over savers. They probably would want to withdraw to talk about money because they just want to take away whatever they have, hide it in wherever they can hide. So they will not say much about their finances. They will not talk much about money. So definitely, yes, different money personalities that draws from our own life personalities have different ways of communicating about money, and you can see.
Tell me, Tembisa, just a thought that comes up for me, you know, how do you think can we as financial planners, based on all this wonderful information that you share in the book, help our clients to, I was just thinking, you know, we've got a saver and we've got a spender, a husband and a wife in one house. How do we help them to understand each other better and start healing, you know, these wounds? Because if we don't heal it and talk to each other, the wounds and the trauma is actually just getting bigger and bigger.
Okay, I think that's why then financial coaching is very important as part of integration to financial planning, because financial coaching introduces conversations. It introduces people listening to each other and understanding each other's background, because part of our money personalities are shaped by the beliefs that we have. They are shaped by our backgrounds. And some of those things, for example, beliefs, they can be changed over a long time, you know, by educating and going through certain processes. Our beliefs can then be changed. So if you've got a saver and a spender in one house and you engage them in a conversation and understanding them, at what point are they a spender because they are a spender naturally, or are they a spender because they believe that money should be spent because I can die any time? There are people who believe that life is too short, so I should just spend everything. But if you actually have a conversation with that person, make them see the balance of life, that yes, life can be too short, but also life can be too long for you to live a broke life. There can be a common ground that can be reached. So the importance of conversation between people, which an advisor or a financial planner can drive that conversation between those couples, can be very helpful. So my recommendation is, if at one point we could have financial planners integrating their planning processes with some sort of financial coaching, driving the right conversation within clients, it can help a long way.
Thank you for that. The thunderstorm just took my electricity down, but thanks to load shedding, I could uninterruptedly go ahead. So was it 2 or 3 years back, then you would have went on with the conversation without me. I see Tracy asked in the chat, Tembisa, if you can just perhaps list the different money personalities for us, if you don't mind.
Okay, in the book, I have the compulsive spender. Those compulsive spenders are people who frequently spend on things that they do not need. They just want to spend. The purpose is just to spend. And the other one is the compulsive money maker. those people who just focus on making money, they never even get time of spending that money, or even, you know, they just believe that every day I should work hard on making my money. So constantly they think monetary success is the key to contentment. So they just want to keep on making more money. Then you find they save a splurger. So they exhibit both the characters of being a saver as well as a spender. So they more on a middle line. Then you find the gamblers. I'm sure we've experienced one or two gamblers in our lifetime where they have the characteristics of a money maker. So they believe they can make money, but also they also want to lose. They can lose money as quickly as they make it, you know. And then we've got the warrior. The warrior is somebody who always feel like they are just one moment of losing all the money. No matter how much they have, they feel like money is not enough. So I always, they lack confidence in their ability to make money, you know? So they just never feel money is enough. So their thoughts are preoccupied with the worst case scenario of what will happen to their money. So those are the ones that I have in the book. Tracy, does it help?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
So I think at this point in time, we can open the floor. Tembisa, is, you know, thoughts from anybody or questions to you from anybody that was listening to our conversation, you know, so yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Hendrik. I really enjoyed this session.
No, it's our honor to have you as an alumni, as well as for the work you are doing for financial coaching, Tembisa. I see Denzel said in the chat, you want money at the end of your life, not life at the end of your money.
That is true, Denzel. For some, though, not everyone believes the same. Yes.
Yeah, and I think to link on that one, perhaps, and I don't know what your thoughts is, Tembisa, is for a warrior, we must actually help them to enjoy life now.
Yes.
Because they've got enough money, but they're so damn scared to spend any of that money, and they are experiencing financial trauma around, you know, things that is totally not valid by the assumptions they are living. So for those clients, we must actually help to live life to its fullest now, else they can end up and the kids is going to inherit the money and spend it all.
But also, I think people do not understand that money could never be enough unless you define your enough. Money will never be enough if you do not have the definition of your enough. Until you define what is enough for me, then you will always chasing some sort of money, because somebody who's got $1 billion will always chase $1 trillion. Somebody who's already got $1 trillion will then chase zillion. So money will never be enough until you define what is enough for Tembisa.
I think that's so true, but that's not the easy answer.
It's not. It's a journey. It's a journey we can all embark on.
Yeah, because
I thought it was.
If I do find out, yeah, continue.
I thought it was very interesting when you were talking about financial trauma, and I know that your book, you wanted it to be for everybody. But did you find in your research whether financial trauma happened, or it happened significantly in different stages of life? So one of my sort of areas is looking at women during their menopause and how money anxiety and money trauma can actually, you know, rear its ugly head, really.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for that question and comment, which in my book, I don't think I explored that side, which is a very interesting side, hey? But just from a comment point of view, I would assume that if maybe we can engage on a research, we might find there are different stages. But just from a thought on top of my head, I would assume that there wouldn't be specific maybe time period we can focus on, because some of the money traumas can come from the events that we experience, and those events are not planned events. So we can never then assume that most people experience a death of a loved one at a certain phase of their life. So if I've lost my parent at age 16 and they probably did not leave me with any financial support, that's sort of a dent of a financial trauma, because now that death of a loved one and the financial impact it's had in my life has created a certain trauma, and I was only 16. But another person might experience the same event of divorce, another event of divorce, they probably at the middle age. I think it's a very good thing that, a good point that maybe I should look at, and we all can all search in our own spheres, where maybe if we just look at the trends, what are the different stages of people experiencing trauma. At this point, I was just talking about trauma in general, and when people experiencing regardless of their phases of life.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an area to look at, because anxiety is one of the symptoms of the menopause.
Yes.
So I think there'll be a lot more research on it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps we've got somebody that's very interested in financial trauma and therapy here on the line also. Liesel, have you perhaps got a view on that one?
Sorry, Hendrik. I was you got me there. Let me just get my thing on. Thank you so much, Tembisa. It was extremely interesting for me to listen to you. I don't have a specific comment or question. I just really admire what you did, and yeah, this is totally my jam. So I just wanted to say that I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you so much, Liesel. Thank you.
So thanks, Tembisa, for those of you. She put the link to her book in the chat, so you can just use the link there. Renata, I thought from you. I see your hand is up.
Okay, now first press all the buttons. Okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. And Tembisa, yeah, thank you very much for an interesting presentation. Just to get back to Tracy's comment on I think it was menopause specifically, but I think when we look at trauma and the finances, if you go and look at specific life stages or life phases, whatever you want to call it, you would have specific traumas around those, or anxieties around those. And often money is one of those that will be triggered. And I think what one has to look at is what is the support structure, and what is the how far we're veering off our planning. So, for instance, if we do look at the menopause, that's one event. But if we have, for instance, the savings, and yes, we are now going through these life changes, or all of a sudden an empty nest, or all of a sudden a child getting sick, or going through a divorce, what is at the back end, what does our planning look like? What does our current investments look like? What does our support structure look like? And what does our EQ and our resilience factor look like? You know, often if we've had I can use an example. Someone was saying to me, they lived in Johannesburg for years and years, and then they moved out of Johannesburg, and then they come in for business. And in Johannesburg, sometimes we have a bit of a failing infrastructure situation. And what they are struggling with when they come back here is they say, they can't actually understand when they were living here, they didn't feel it. Yet when they come back in, they feel it. And what I'm trying to say with that is they say all of a sudden they don't have the tools from a resilience point of view to deal with it. They actually cannot deal with what is necessary when they come in to do business. So by the time they get to the meetings, they are so frazzled that they cannot actually do the proper business. And that's what I mean is if you've got the normal resilience built in and you've got the things that work, it's easier for you to deal with the traumas and the phases. So it's not just the one thing. I think you have to look at what goes around that as well to give you some guidance. But yes, Tembisa, I think that would be a very interesting next phase for your book, is to unpack and see from a phases point of view or a life stages point of view what traumas are, or the types of traumas, and what are the backstops that would help one deal with those.
Thank you so much, Renette. That is very good, and I think you've unpacked it so much so well when you say probably we experience different traumas at different life stages. It's so much interesting, as you say. I think that should be my next point of research. Thank you.
Yeah, Bruce Feller did a lot of research in the US specifically on life transitions and linking it to it, and he actually found that we try to think to make sense that life is linear, but life is not linear because life happens to us. And I actually, while Renata was talking, I quickly looked at his graph because he actually plotted where life, and he just looked at life transitions, but that is from child getting cancer to partner passing away, etc. Interesting, he found that on average he talks about life transitions and then life quakes, and he says we'll on average go between 8 and 12 life quakes. All of us will go through life, and then the second point is, if I look at it, most probably the biggest part of life transitions is between 30 and 50, age 30 and 50, which, to your point, Tracy, most probably seems like a high concentration there. But then also, the change that happens. And I was in a conversation the other day, which interesting, the same thing came out where the ladies, it was an open coaching group, and they said, one of them said they want to work specifically with ladies in their menopause and helping them working through that. So I think you onto something there. So yeah. Other question? Yes,
on the chat, Hendrik, sorry, I think there was a question which says, in your experience and from Deepa, your experience and research, do you think men and women heal from financial trauma differently? As much as I did not detail that, but from experience in terms of interacting with clients, we all experience trauma first in different ways. So a woman and a male can go through the same thing, but they will respond in different ways on that thing. That's number one. Number two, in terms of now the healing journey for them, I do believe they also go through the healing journey in different ways, and in accepting whatever has happened. Women are more emotionally attached to situation, and men usually put logic. So what I found was more of my male client would respond to even after we've had a conversation, go through the process of let's remedy this situation, they end up do want to see the logic side, the technical side, the numbers, while women do focus more on how do I get through this emotional trauma that I'm still experiencing because I had gone through this event. So again, as I'm saying, I did not dive into it too much, but just from experience and the observation that I've had, there is some difference in terms of how women and male heal throughout the trauma journey.
Thanks for that, Tembisa. I see Deepa has got a second question saying, do you think traditional support structures like ICAS in corporate can be recommended for clients to discuss these issues? And I'm going to give my Hendrik world according to Hendrik view, and then you can come in, Tembisa. I think the challenge is, Deepa, is research shows us that psychologists and therapists battle to talk about money. Financial advisors battle to talk about trauma and emotion. So I think to Tembisa's last part is, if you can refer somebody to somebody that is a financial coach that can have the conversations to engage around the issues and trauma around money, then that's the right place to be. And then I also want to say, there's always the red flags. If there's conflict between couples which is violent, then we don't want to be there. Then they need to go to the ICAS and the psychologist. But if it's stuff that we can talk about and it's those two worlds, I think you as a financial coach, specifically Deepa, is the right person they must actually talk to. Your view, Tembisa.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Hendrik, because remember, with financial traumas, there is a big part of the emotional side, but we cannot shy away from the fact that it still involves finances, which is a big technical subject for other people. So if we just have a psychologist that deals with your mentality and your emotions, they're probably not too comfortable with talking about finances as well. Hence, Hendrik, I agree like 100% with Hendrik to say, if the best person to assist with financial traumas is the financial counselors, financial coaches, and financial therapists. Those are the great people.
Hi, Tembisa. Thank you so much for your presentation. I enjoyed it. And it was very nice to hear your view and your experience working with your own people and how to understand them and their cultural background and so on. I've also got a lot of clients from different cultures, and I've noticed all those issues that you mentioned, the female and the male, and how they see money from their backgrounds. What I've experienced from my side, working in your culture, is the terminology in financial planning and compliance documents and a whole range of other terminology. Is one of the reasons also, I think, it's an assumption, is they don't understand some of the processes, the terminology or the compliance documents. So what has been your experience in that sense?
Thank you so much, Alice, for your comment as well as your question. Just to be blunt and maybe to be as clear as possible, well, out of the 400 clients that I've had, probably 80% of them are Black people. And that means I, as a Black person as well, have more experience. The main thing currently the main financial trauma in the Black community is one that I mentioned of the post-traumatic related to money, is the lack of confidence, but also the lack of knowledge. most young Black people, or even working Black people, they haven't been exposed to the financial, I would say financial services, all right, or financial literacy world, or financial education. So the lack of that knowledge is the first biggest barrier that even when I have money, I now have to understand how this money works. Understanding a pay slip, a simple thing as a pay slip, is still a struggle. Let alone now you telling me about understanding insurance. Okay, now I understand that insurance is covering me for risk, but now you're complicating it further and saying there's income protection, there is disability. That is a foreign and causes more confusion, while my foundation is still coming from a poverty background. There's a lot of beliefs about money that I still have, there is still a lot of barriers about accessing that money that we still have. So that's the biggest thing with young Black professionals, is that for them to access the financial services fully and acknowledge it and appreciate it, a lot of financial education needs to happen in the background. Again, as you say, financial education to get them to understand the basic terms of what this means and how this applies, So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
What I found is there's some of the financial terminology, there's not even a word in some of the languages that can even explain that specific whatever. There isn't a word. There's no a word in any of the languages explaining compliance, so they don't understand it. And so the other thing that I've also noticed is I work with a big corporate, and I work with farm workers, nursery workers, and they don't even understand the benefit statement from the Provident Fund. So they don't look at it. They sort of block it out and don't want to even understand it. They just know they've got it.
Again, Alice, it comes from the fact that for the longest time, it was non-existent in our community, so to say. My mother doesn't even know what a Provident Fund is because she has never been employed. She's 63, never ever been employed. So she's never experienced what a payslip is. She's never experienced what a Provident Fund. So had I not been educated, where would I have learned about what a payslip is, what a Provident Fund is, So the trauma is so much entrenched in a way that the community itself, there's a lot of things that were non-existent in the Black community that we were not exposed into until we set our foot in the university at 18. I only had a bank account when I was 18 years old. That was the first time that I had a bank account, when I had to go and do my first year in university because I needed to receive my NSFAS money. So now that's the basic. I only get to understand how a bank account works, so that how big the trauma is or how big the gap is, and it will take another decade for it to be mended, and I do not think the financial services and the advisors understand the impact or the how big the gap is. Hence, it's still difficult even to retain those type of clients, not because they don't have money. I've had a lot of experience where I need to recreate financial scenarios in our own language. I'll explain some other term, recreate them in something that they can relate to, try and bring it closer to home. So I'll make example of investment and I'll say, imagine at home when you have 1, 2, and 3, and this 1, 2, and 3 multiply in this way. Then I'll take it back. You see that how shares work. And that how I'll need to simplify it before somebody can understand what a compound interest is. you know. So I'll have to say, you know, you have a cow at home. If that cow bring another small cow and there's milk, and the next cow and this small cow grow up and have another cow, that's a compound interest, because the bigger cow have given birth to the small cow give birth to another small cow. You see, that's how compound interest is, because there is no word that's called compound interest in our language.
Yeah, I have translated a whole benefit statement into a Zulu language, and I've actually used a pizza cut in pieces to explain the 75% of the income on the pizza, you know. So, but I must say that has helped a lot. So, but thank you anyway. I just wanted to know what you were thinking of. You know, I think to be fair, financial documents should actually translate it into their own languages, because that will already bridge that gap a lot.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Alice.
So I think the challenge is actually bigger, and I see with the financial literacy, working with professionals in large organizations, they don't even look at their pension funds, the statements. And if you ask them what is the value, and we now had quite a few pension fund administrator and principals that was part of the financial coaching course. They would tell you that 3 months to 6 months before somebody retires, they'll come into the office and say, you know, how much am I going to get? And then they say, but I'll never live from this. We'll never be able to live from this money. So we've got a huge task and responsibility to get people. And I think that's that thing back to your emotions then, Tembisa, is I'm so afraid, or I'm so ashamed that I perhaps did not. I know deeply down within me, I know I did not save enough, or I'm too afraid to go and ask what is my situation going to be. I'll do it next year. I'll do it when the kids is out of school. I'll do it when the grandkids are there, and then I keep on postponing instead of facing that thing. And that is where we've got a huge task to engage with clients and help them understand that and pack it out. Because, you know, if we come back to the coaching model, then and to your story, what is the lies we are telling us? So that brings us back to language then, to say, you know, what is the narratives we've got. But we also know that those emotions and moods is actually a predisposition for action. So if I'm living in anxiety, I'm never going to see possibility. So how do we move clients through the coaching model that they get to that point to start seeing possibility and taking that responsibility and action? So yeah, just perhaps a side thought. Yeah, I see Deepa is asking a very difficult question for you there, Tembisa. I think she addressed that to you. As to date, how has the South African consumer base reacted to, embraced, engaged with financial coaches? Does there seem to be enough uptake to establish a sustainable coaching practice in South Africa, or are South African consumers still green to the idea versus other countries like the US, Canada, or the UK, for example?
Thank you, Tenzo, for that question. And let me just say this. Financial coaching, I do not know if it would be even correct to say it's still at an infant stage. It's still at the pregnant stage when it comes to South Africa, because not even financial planning it's a crawling stage. People still don't even understand what financial planning is and what financial planners do. Now come introduce something very new, which they can't differentiate between a financial planner and a financial coach. And how should I know that this person is legit? Financial coaching is nowhere currently, to be truthful, in South Africa. It's still for the little, not even a percentage of people that acknowledge that financial coaching is available and it's something very useful to be done. And it also even talks to how many financial coaches do we have in South Africa. Hendrik, you're the person who have maybe more knowledge than I am. How many financial coaches, you can count them currently, how many professional financial coaches we have in South Africa, the whole of South Africa. let alone now people getting warm to the idea. We are nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I think the positive is, and I think to your point, how many? So I think the question is, how many credentialed or at least completed a course in financial coaching? And then there's a lot of people that call themselves financial coaches or therapists,
yeah.
but they never did. They never did one. I wonder some of them if they even listened to a read a blog post or something, you know, they heard about something and then they call themselves coaches or therapists. That's the other side. However, it's interesting. I do not do product implementation. I just do financial coaching, and I don't put myself out there. I do not go and look for clients, but it's interesting. It's from high level clients that's got multi-million and billion rand portfolios to the client that is consumed by loan sharks that will come and knock on my door and say, can you help me? I've listened and looked at so many TikToks, but none of this is working for me. How can you help me? Are you prepared to help me? So there's a huge need, but I agree, Tembisa, it's we just scratching, but I think you're at the right place at this point in time if you're interested and start working here, because this is where we're going to change the world and of financial planning as such, you know. So yeah. I see Bianca says they from a UK point of view. UK is still very green, and also Tracy, very few people have heard of financial therapists and what they do in the UK. Yeah, so I think, but even if I talk to the US people, especially integrating financial planning and coaching and financial planning and therapy, it's, although they already from the early 90s doing this, it's not mainstream there. So the people that's doing it is also at the edge of creating something new. So yeah, so I think there's huge opportunities. Firstly, thank you very much, Tembisa, for joining us, and it was an honor for hosting you on the first one for the year. And perhaps a last question: what's next for you?
Thank you so much, Hendrik. Just as an update, I actually left. Well, not left. I'm transitioning to full-time financial coaching now. So from the 30th of September, I took a break from financial planning. Well, not took a break because I'll still integrate it on financial coaching, but I'm moving more to financial coaching greatly than financial planning. So I'm currently with one of the organizations in the financial services right now on the academy space, again, trying to sort of what's the correct word, influence how the future advisor should have financial coaching. So and then I'll have my own financial coaching practice full time. So that's my future, and focusing on just impacting this financial coaching as much as I can.
Thank you very much, and all of the best for that. And thank you for everybody that joined us this afternoon, and for all your questions and input, and all of the best for your businesses and your practices for the next month until we meet next month.